Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hot Tummies on Islands podcast. We are still covering Temptation Island. We have a big treat for you today. Of course, Maggie and I are here as always, but we are having the joy of our lives to be joined by our favorite host, Mark L. Walberg is here. Mark, hello, welcome.
What a lovely introduction. Thank you for that. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. We've been covering Temptation Island since the third season on USA Network, and so this feels like a big culmination for us.
Well, I'm glad we get to talk about it.
I love it. So I guess we should just jump in, right? So our first question. So Temptation Island has had a really interesting arc from being on in the early 2000s to coming back pre-COVID on USA to now being on Netflix. And we're just wondering, do you notice any big differences between these three eras of Temptation Island?
You know what's interesting? That's a really, really good question, by the way. From a format standpoint, not a lot. There have been some twists and turns along the way, things we've tried that we've gotten rid of, things we brought back. But generally, the concept is almost exactly the same as it was when we did it originally on Fox back in 2001 or whatever year that was. Dating and relationships have changed. And most of that is social media, but some of that I give credit to your generation and younger. And this is the charge I give to people my generation and older is shut your pie hole and listen to the kids a little bit, because you have redefined things like slut shaming and sexuality and people's, judgment of gender specific biases that are not accurate. So one of the things about dating is, women get to have sexuality and feelings and emotions and a vote in this. And I think that's really positive. So dating is different. I think there's more on the line. I think the access to one another through social media has changed the dynamic entirely. But I think also social media has given us the education that everybody has a voice, everybody has a truth, and we've gotten a little bit more emotionally intelligent in how we deal with each other.
Mark, you are, like, bringing it back to you, you are so emotionally intelligent on the show, to the point where when Kirsten and I began watching, we were a little bit like, what's going on here? We had never seen a host with such empathy and such care for his contestants. And we were just curious if there's any sort of training or education that you've had that makes you particularly good for your role as the host of this show, or have you just always been more in tune with your emotions and guiding people through a process like this?
So the answer is, it was never designed to be this. I was a TV host. And when I started the show, when I hosted the show back in 2001, there wasn't a whole lot of plan. So I would go into the bonfires without a script or any direction. And I kind of say, I'm going to start these conversations and ask questions, cut me out, but then you're going to get the content of them sharing their truth. That said, I haven't had any formal training of any kind, but I've been on a path of trying to discover more about myself my whole adult life. And then when I met my wife at a very young age, she, in her journey, we have kind of grown each other up. So I always put it this way, you walk next to people you went to high school with or whatever, and you can't figure out why one person has grown and become something and the other person hasn't. And it really comes down to, you're either somebody who asks questions and wants it, or you're somebody who doesn't, and you want to be a victim for the rest of your life. So one of the things I've been saying quite a bit this season to people who ask this question is, it's not that I know more. It's not that what I'm sharing is stuff I have learned per se, although it is a little bit. It's more about sharing stuff I'm grappling with and trying to figure out for myself. So I've done some workshops, some self-expression and leadership kind of crazy seminar stuff that kind of cracks you open a little bit. So there are things I have learned along the way because other people have invested in me emotionally. And then I'm in a relationship with a woman who doesn't let you be, casual in it. And so I picked stuff up along the way, but I think I've just had a natural hunger for that kind of conversation. And maybe to give myself a little bit of flowers is maybe there's an empathic gene I have born out of fear and survival as a child, quite frankly, is what empath comes from, right? Is sussing out danger. But I think I've learned to use those traits by choice. I can choose to kind of pay attention and listen, and it's easier for me to be about you than it is to be about me. It's easier for me to tune into what Maggie needs as opposed to how am I looking while I talk to Maggie, right?
It's honestly this season, Mark, we literally were like, if you told us he was getting a master's and PhD in psychology between seasons, we would believe it. So I like that it's coming from more of like a fundamental kind of curiosity and growth. I like that a lot.
I also
2 semesters of college. I have no degree of any kind. I went to college for fun for like a year. That was about it.
Wow. I think that also really ties into sort of what you were saying before, the answer to your first question about how the culture has changed. Like, your curiosity is what led you to the understanding that the culture has changed, which I think is the reason that you are able to connect with your contestants on this show so well, because you are naturally curious about them and the world that they're currently living in.
Here's the thing that I think I've tried to kind of reverse engineer. What are we doing? What am I doing? How is this working? What I think and I think about it in terms of being a parent to a 34-year-old and a 30-year-old. And I've said that, when your kids are young, you're like the man. Everything you say is like God speaking. And as they get older, it changes a little bit. And at this point in my career, in my life as a father, I'm the student, not the teacher. I'm a student of theirs. So what I kind of say to people my age, and give credit to people your age, is there's a hunger for emotional intelligent conversation from a perspective that's generations different than yours. I've seen that 20-somethings want advice and guidance in relationship and life from maybe an older perspective. The problem is people my age don't usually give advice that way. They usually point the finger and judge you and tell you what you're doing wrong. They don't listen, they preach. And so that student teacher thing, being the student seat for me, allows me to ask questions of you without the judgment part, which now allows you to hear what I might have to say. And I think the problem with intergenerational communication is that people my age look at people your age and go, well, let me tell you, kid. And then you immediately are like, I don't fucking want to hear a thing you've got to say. Right? But that's why guys with gray hair like me become invisible to people like you, and vice versa, where in my case, I'm that dude, but I'm willing to listen a little bit. Like I'm not going to tell you I know everything. I'm actually trying to, I have even said, even your slang, even the slang of today, like, is emotional intelligence slang. And you don't realize it. Like, we don't say, I love your shirt. We say it's giving an emotion. It's giving. I feel.
I need Mark to talk to my dad on the phone for real. So, okay, going back to the bonfires and Temptation Island. So we know that you are seeing those clips for the first time as well from your press tour this season. And sometimes in these bonfires, you are seeing behavior from people that is just so counter to the boundaries that they set up within their couple. And sometimes you might see things that are genuinely concerning on a human level. And so we're just wondering, like, you are so good at extending that empathy and grace to even the people that are doing things that seem, from the edited show to be truly horrible. And like, how do you prepare yourself to extend that grace? Do you have to, detach in any specific way to prepare for the bonfires?
Let me think about an answer for you on that. It's a really, really wonderful question. First of all, to be completely transparent, I don't watch the clips beforehand. Most of the time I don't know what's in them, but sometimes I have an idea. Like if somebody wilds out, the producer go, you're not going to believe what they did. And they'll tell me, and, but I don't see the clip and I don't pick the clip. Right. And so that's a little, I'm just going to be clear that sometimes I know more than it appears to know, but most of the time I don't. As far as how do I deal with it is, you have to just get your head around the fact that we're all human. And if we were to put a magnifying glass on any one of us, we could both look altruistic and fabulous or absolutely horrible at any given time. What I've learned and what I believe is that judgment of any kind in any time ever just doesn't serve anything. All it does, you know, and I've said this quote a few times, so forgive me if you've heard it or you see it clipped from somebody else's thing. But when you're judging someone, you're making yourself bigger standing on the neck of somebody else. And when you're being judged, you don't feel like you're being lifted up. You feel like you're being oppressed and there's a thumb on your head, right? So it just doesn't serve anything. It's a performative behavior, judgment, born out of your own insecurity. Let me tell you what I know. You're wrong and I'm right. Who cares? There isn't really that. So what I try to do, and I've heard from therapists saying that this is actually like a clinical way of doing things, but it's just a natural thing for me, is I'd rather ask you, why were you able to compartmentalize that behavior when you say, you're saying one thing to me, but your behavior, I'm confused. So tell me how this works in your head. And then what that allows me to do is say back to them what they say to me, and then they hear something, which, by the way, is sort of a Socratic way of doing things. It's the way I've actually been broken down in some workshops, is that you don't realize how you feel about something until you hear yourself say something. But the tricky part in that is I'm not listening to what you're saying, because normally what comes out of people's mouths is a mask. It's not the truth. You believe it's the truth. It's not that you're lying, but you really think this is your truth. I kind of listen to, and I don't know where I developed this skill, but I think it's mostly fear and survival when I was younger, afraid people were going to beat me up, is that I'm listening to, they chose these words, so what's behind that? And so I can say, you said this, so what's behind that? And then that's the first time sometimes people are even looking at that part. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And I also think that it's your job as a host to be able to offer like non-judgmental feedback for everybody. That honestly produces a better show also for us, because us at home, we get a deeper look into what's going on with these people, but also then that leaves us at home to make judgments, you know, behind a TV screen, which is the point of a show like this, where we're able to
Girl, you should see me watch Love is Blind. I'm judging a judge face. You have no idea. I have all the answers, you know. That's why we like these shows. In all candor, I kind of wish there were less of me in our show. I think I've gotten a little preachy over the years, and people seem to like it, but it cringes me out sometimes, you know. You know, I can't help it. I'm not trying to be anything other than who I am, and sometimes I get a little too passionate, and I kind of rely on the editors, like, cut that down, you know, get me out of there.
I think it's
a little bit
clear, though, that the contestants really, I think specifically the male contestants, really value your judgment. We saw a summit this year and a bonfire literally say to you, like, can I do that? Am I like asking your permission for behavior? And I think that is such a sign of the way that you are so well respected amongst the contestants, and the way that they go into these bonfires with an open heart when it comes to you.
I don't take it lightly. And I thank them for letting me have the conversation with them. And before we start every season, I kind of say to them off camera, sometimes on camera, I don't really know when it's rolling or not, and I don't really care. It's not going to change the way I am. I always say to them, I know you think this is a TV show, and I know that you're here for a lot of reasons. Some of them are relationship, a lot of them are clout. I don't have a problem with any of that. But just know that I'm maybe more committed to this being a real experience for you than you are. And I'm buying what I'm selling. So that you're clear, I'm not playing the role of TV host here. I'm down. I'm down for you on this. And I also don't need to be your friend. So if I say stuff that pisses you off, I'm not scared of that either. But just know it comes from a place of love. I'm so obnoxious, but I literally say, you don't realize this, we've just met, but I love you already. I love you. I'm making the choice to love you, so that whatever we talk about, you know, it's coming from, it's not a judgment place, it's a love place. And I don't think people realize that we get to choose that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just so wonderful. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's you. Maybe you want to be on the show less because you feel a little cringe or something. But I think it would be remiss of me as a millennial to not say that to be cringe is to be free, and so that's a good thing.
Hey,
And
that's
also,
really good. I'm stealing that.
I
so
didn't make it up,
true.
but I'll take credit because it is. It's important, I think, to lean into that, and I think that. By showing kind of that side of you, you know, choosing love and really guiding these people with empathy and grace, like that is such an important lesson, especially for, you know, the men on the show. If there's any men watching, you know, maybe they're standing up watching while their girlfriend is actually watching it. Like, I just think
I
that
see a lot of
message-
those TikToks that please me where they're like, they're shooting their boyfriend going, he said he hates the show, but look at him. And
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that
And
phrase, I didn't hear half of what you said, Kristen, because to cringe is to be free.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to spin on that all day. So
I love it. And then when I'm watching all your other interviews, if you say that, I'll be like, haha,
I've said it more awkwardly. It sort of falls in the place of when I say to them, you know, comfortable, nothing's happening when you're comfortable. It's when you're uncomfortable that something's happening. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, cringe is to be free is the next level, right? Because cringe only lives in, well, I shouldn't spend our whole podcast trying to figure my life out on your back. Cringe lives in, what do you think of me? That's what cringe comes out of. How am I perceived? What is the judgment of me? And that's your doorway to freedom. You just cracked my head open. That was great.
I love that. We also, so obviously you've hosted many reality shows over the years. You've been hosting a long time. And with the exception of Antiques Roadshow, Temptation Island has had the most staying power with, you know, coming back from the dead and being on for quite a few seasons now. And why do you think that is, that this is the one that really, you know, broke containment?
I don't know. I'm grateful that it came back after 18 years. I put this as I'm talking to people trying to figure out their life. I'm like, hey, maybe don't plan so much. Maybe be more, and plan less, because the universe is crazy. I call it the vibe. I don't like to say God because it polarizes people, although I refer to it as God. But the vibe has a sense of humor, and there's access to wealth and abundance and greatness that we're unaware of. We think there's a door we have to unlock when in fact there's no doors. It's wide open. The vibe is not invested. The vibe is like, come in, take what you want or don't. It's just not going to change the vibe. So what I have wondered about is, why has this shown up? And what has shown up, and I don't know why and why it took so long or whatever, is this crazy show that looks like this ridiculous thing has afforded me a seat where I get to be the most authentic version of myself I've ever had to be on TV. So the other lesson is, you get to bloom, but you don't get to pick the pot you're put in, right? You don't get to pick that, but you get to bloom wherever. Flowers grow through the crack of cement. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's there for a reason. Robbie, my wife, says this all the time. It either happens to you or for you. That's your choice.
Mark, I'm going to write that down.
Absolutely.
It's an old adage, but it's true. Things just are. The human condition is to attach meaning to the things. And then superstition of, if I do this, then this happens. Or if I don't do this, then that won't happen. When in fact, things just are without meaning. Right? So then you get to choose what story you want to believe, which I said to people on the show before. You have a story that everyone leaves you. Let's stop that story right now. And let's pick a new story. Right?
Well, also kind of continuing with that idea of these people with specific stories on the show and what they get to choose and what they don't. Are there any couples that have left together on the island that have just completely shocked you at the end?
Well, and I can't remember her name right now. Why can't I remember her? I can see her face. Well, like Hall, just a couple seasons ago, remember Hall?
Oh, yeah, we remember Hall.
And Caitlin. Yeah. Hall left with Michaela.
Yeah,
I can't remember her name. She's so...
Michaela?
Michaela. Oh my God. That was like cognitive test. I flunked.
We think about Hall and Michaela all the time.
We bring them up on the podcast a lot.
I have tried to get them on my podcast, and I understand them not wanting to come. My point is, this is judgment we can't help. We saw Michaela being this beautiful girl, voluptuous, oh my God, sexy, all that stuff. And we just wrote it off as, well, Hall just like, need to get with that, right? And he's full of shit. And oh my God, I didn't feel that way entirely, but some of that. Well, that's not true. First of all, she's a person that we objectified, right? Couldn't help it systemically. And he was a guy too growing. So while breaking off an engagement makes him look like the villain and all of that stuff, they're going to get married. They've been together for years now. They found love, left the island together, and it's real. So, we should all be ashamed of ourselves for the judgment, right? So yeah, that's one. I'm so happy for them. And then what's beautiful about that is Caitlin met this guy who supports all the things that she didn't get from Hall. And they just got married.
Oh, so, wow. We didn't know that. We didn't know that.
I couldn't go. That's it was great. In gloom. I wish I could have gone, but I met, we did a Zoom call with her and her now husband, and he's great. And so the point is, if we stop keeping score and we say thank you for every relationship, even the toxic ones, then we get to have a healthy one at some point, right? Because if Robbie's right, which if she's not even in the house, but just in case she watches this, you're right, honey.
I was going to say, she's right. She's always right. I don't know her, but I know that.
But if the adage is true that what happens to you happens for you, it's up to us to figure out why is it for me, not why is it against me. So when things happen, where our natural tendency is to say, oh, this happened to me, that's why I couldn't, blah, 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 blah. It's a great cop-out for us. Instead of going, this happened to me, what's the lesson? How do I empower myself with this, what seems to be tragedy that happened, right? It's not a natural question to ask as a human.
Yeah.
But again, I'm saying this out loud to you as I work it out for myself.
No, it's so great.
and that's part of what makes you so compelling as a host and on TV, honestly, Mark. And so from that angle, as you on TV, every year Temptation Island comes out and your daughter starts posting TikToks, get my dad on Dancing with the Stars. Her content's really great, by the way.
She's a badass. My daughter is a boss.
Yes, she is.
She is.
My son is too. You don't even know about him. He's like insane, but in a good way.
Okay, wait, as an aside before we actually get into this, so you said that your children are 34 and 30, which is Maggie and I's exact ages. So is your daughter the older or the younger?
Younger. She's 30.
Oh my gosh, I'm the same age as her.
She's
wow.
She's Maggie.
She's in Boston. She's just up the road from you. So.
Oh my gosh, I was just in Boston last weekend. We should have hung out.
She had a great weekend because her brand, Lazy Ballerina Club, at lazyballerinaclub.com, she just did a collab with Merit Beauty, that big
wow,
that's amazing.
And they had her teach 2 adult open ballet classes, and her whole platform is she was a professional ballerina, and that's a toxic business often. And so what she's talking about is you need to be those things you are for joy, but remember you're a human before you put your point shoes on.
Mark, we are going to talk off pod. I'm going to connect your daughter with one of my best friends. It's going to happen.
Okay. We have a really wonderful content creator friend who's a former ballerina that it seems like a very natural collab there.
They may even know each other. By the way, this is my ultimate plan is I want to do reverse Nepo baby.
Yeah.
I want to be a Nepo daddy is what I want to be.
Love it. Okay. So sorry, back to the original question. So No, all good. Would you go on Dancing with the Stars if they asked? And if so, is there a specific pro you'd want to be paired with?
That's so funny because Goldie has been posting nonstop of clips of me being an idiot. And I yelled at her. I'm like, how did you do that without asking me? I look like an idiot. She's like, why don't you shut up and look and see how many views? And there were like 5 million views.
Yes.
So the answer is if they were to ask me to be on Dancing with the Stars, which I'm sure they will never do, but if they were to ask, I would humbly and graciously accept.
Yay!
And I don't really have a choice of what pro I would want to be with. My wife, who is also a former professional dancer and a badass bitch, if I can say that in the positive.
You can say whatever you want. Whatever
Thank
you
you.
want.
She was like, you need to be on Dancing with the Stars. You need to be on Dancing with the Stars. She says, but you can't be with Julianne Hough. I said, I get it. Because I've met Julianne and you can't even look her straight in the eye. It's like looking into God. It's too much. So, yeah, Mark, I think I will lose terribly, but I'd be down.
Are you interested in other reality shows? Would you be willing to go on The Traitors or $1 Million?
Well, he says I should.
I'm
game to play. Look, to me, this is all like to me, this is all like victory lap time. It's like, you know, I don't really have much to prove. I'm really grateful to still be doing what I'm doing. Not only to be doing what I'm doing, but to be doing it at a level I never thought I would get to do. I really love the people it's put me in contact with. And, you know, I also don't mind looking like an idiot. I do that all the time. So, you know, I don't lust to be on TV, but I'm down to play.
I think you would be so good at The Traitors or one of these social strategy games. Like your social skills, your ability to read people is off the charts. I think that you would be like a sneaky assassin.
No, the problem is I'm also very transparent, as you could see from the memes of me, that I don't really mask my emotion too well. So I'd be off.
Just curious as well, like, do you watch any of like the big landmark competition reality, like Amazing Race, Survivor, Big Brother, any of that?
I watched Survivor the first few seasons. No, I'm not so much down. I did get into Special Forces one season. That was kind of interesting. I watch Love is Blind. Because I'm on Netflix now, I watch some of those, like Perfect Match I watch. As much as I can. Love is Blind, I watch.
Do you ever watch Love Island?
I started watching Love Island, but it's on so many nights that I can't keep up. And once I get behind, I don't feel like having to do the homework to catch up. So I'm like, you know, I'll just watch all of the stories on Instagram and I pretty much can catch up.
Yeah, that's well, and it makes sense though, because Love Island has the best reality twist of all time. It's called Casa Amor, and it's where they do Temptation Island in the middle of Love Island, where they split off to separate villas. So they should be giving you some credit for that, I think.
Yeah, Mark, Kirsten does a incredible Love Island podcast on our feed, and you should come on for the Casa Amor episode to give your thoughts. God. I can see the crossover now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh my God. Down. The way my people will reach out to your people.
Have your people reach out to my, when I say people, I mean person. I don't have a team. So
listen, I don't have people, so it'll just be me. But I think that we are coming up quite close to your heart out mark. And so I guess I would just like to say, is there any, you know, piece of information or knowledge that you wish could be out there in the world that you maybe don't normally get asked about, or just a note that you'd like to end the interview on?
I don't know. I mean, I end up talking a lot. I got to listen more. I just think, you know, the thing I would say to women, I say on the show a lot is maybe you don't need a man. You get to have a man if that man enhances what's already working in your life. Right. So I think we have to realize that we're worthy, both men and women. We're worthy on our own. We don't need anything. The other phrase that I get hung up on a lot is when people say they're broken. And I don't discount that feeling. I know what it feels like to feel broken, but I try to remind people there's no such thing. You know, we're never broken. We're never really put together. You know, we're kind of more a mosaic than we are one solid piece. So there's that. I don't know. I'm getting a little heady because to cringe is to be free, Kirsten.
Well, Mark, we are so grateful for you. And
I've loved it, you guys. I would love to do this again if you'll have me back on.
Anytime.
Name the day, Mark.
Can I share one story about Victoria, Canada that was crazy, spiritual, insane?
Please do.
And a little incriminating too. So my wife and I were engaged and we worked on a cruise ship for 6 months, which is a whole other chapter. Could be a book. Pretty fucking awesome. And one of the stops was Victoria, Canada, which if you guys don't know, you know, but it's a beautiful place. So we have a day off and we're in port and we're in Canada, and I'm going to meet Robbie later. And in all honesty and transparency, I smoked a joint, was pretty high walking through the streets of Victoria. Okay.
For people that don't know, marijuana, even though it wasn't always legal, it's kind of always been legal here.
And insanely strong, like ridiculously needs a warning strong.
It's good. It's good shit.
Yeah, good stuff. So Robbie had given me this book called Illusions, which is by the same writer as Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's a real tiny book. It's a parable book about self-help and creating and manifesting. Okay. And part of the book is the mentor in the book is telling the person learning that you can imagine, if you just imagine, things can be true. And the parable is, he says, imagine a blue feather, just imagine a blue feather, and then a blue feather will appear, right? So I'm a little bit high and I'm walking through Victoria, which is magical. And I make a wrong turn and I'm down some alley, some weird alley, but I'm imagining a blue feather because I just read the book and I'm trying to be that dude. I turn the corner and there's this shiplap barn of a building, and 15 feet long on the building is a blue feather and the word imagine ... It was a promo for the book I was reading that was a bookstore. And I turned the corner and saw it and I said, I did it. I'll never forget it. So that's my love, Victoria.
Oh, that's amazing. And wow, that's just great. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your time. This has been a dream come true for us. And
I'm glad. Thank you.
We will call you again if you're willing to come back.
Text me anytime.
We will.
All right, you guys. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Mark.
Bye.
Bye. Maggie, that was amazing.
It was so amazing. Mark is the best ever. I swear, I wrote down a couple of times some of the timestamps to be like, I need to write that down. I felt like I was in therapy a little bit. It was so good.
I think part of that healed me a little bit.
Honestly, there was a point where he was talking about somatic, you say back to you what you, and that literally, my therapist literally does that to me. I was in session last week and she was like, okay, you're saying that you're sad about this, but what I hear is anger. And I was like, I think I am angry. And I was like, that is Mark's gig on Temptation Island.
He's just the best, and that was so wonderful, and I'm so excited for everybody to get to experience that conversation, which felt just wonderful. And I guess for the people that are still here, if you weren't here for just the Mark Walberg, Temptation Island reunion, the first part dropped on Vile Files, and so we'll have to wait till both parts are out. We'll watch them. We'll do a little recap with post-season tea and all the info we've learned about the couples and the singles.
Exactly. I can't wait. I'm very, very intrigued.
Yeah, I'm extremely intrigued to see what's going on and all of that. So that's wonderful. But in the meantime, you can follow Maggie, ML_Morgan_, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky.
Exactly.
She's on the RHAP TikTok posting thoughts on Survivor every week, and they're very, very good.
Thank you, Kirsten. And you can find Kirsten everywhere at Kirsten Said What. She is talking about Temptation Island here. She's also talking about Love Island Beyond the Villa. We've got a lot of tea going on there, so check that out. And we got an announcement about next season of Love Island. Very exciting about when it starts. So she will be right here talking about that. With Mark Walberg.
That was fun. We should do our own each other's plugs more often. That was cute.
I agree.
But yes, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We'll be back next time just to break down the postseason a little bit. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.